Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 14th of August. So let's get cracking and look at the markets. Actually, first we will look at the potential news events for today, which doesn't appear any. In fact, let's just go through this week. There we go. So nothing today. It's no data whatsoever at the moment. Okay, so what we got then? We got the Australian monetary policy meeting minutes tomorrow. It shouldn't hold things up. Wage price, etc., might create some volatility there through on the Aussie side of that. Industrial production, China. UK employment data that could certainly hit the pound one way or t'other. We've got obviously French and Italian bank holidays kicking through, so slightly quieter, but don't expect too much. Then we've got inflation, consumer price index data for Canada at 1:30 on Tuesday. I'm just looking through here, so we start back on the round of central banks with the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. Now that's expected to stay at 5.5, so it will have less impact. If they increase that, it will certainly have an impact, but it looks like they're towards the end of their tightening. There is not a lot else there, so there you go. There's nothing to hold your breath about this week, unlike when we've seen non-farms and everything else that sort of sits around there. So let's get on and look at the technicals. Euro is broken and closed below. On Friday it closed below its trend line here, coming back from, we'll just bring it back there, this longer term trend line that's been sitting in there. We're now sitting there just below it on Friday and started moving lower today already. However, it is around a whole number of previous lows, which could provide us a double bottom effect. It's already having a little retrace up on the shorter time frames. It's just bouncing off there. Now it hasn't hit the daily pivot today, so if it does come back, take out the S1, then the S2 becomes a bit of a target. It's maybe not the biggest target in the world, but it certainly then becomes a target. But in doing so, it takes out these prior lows there, so it'll take out, well, it's already taken out this set of lows, but it'll take out these lows over here, so we could see further movement. The pound well, it was a little bit livelier on Friday. It has broken some trend lines already. If I draw this one on there, it's already broken through here, hence why it's not there. So it's already softened. It's consolidated more so, and we are seeing, even on the euro, consolidation for long periods. At the moment, this is sort of a short-term double bottom. If it was to break down and run through here on the weeklies, it could be on for its S1 there. And looking at it from a daily, where it has actually hit the daily pivot already, so the S2 doesn't favour so well, but they are a bit more pinched. Overall, lower highs in here, looking soft on this market. So Euro pound both looking soft at the moment. Talking about looking soft, well, looking strong against the soft one is the US dollar, looking strong against the yen here. Now we have got to this sort of, I say, magical number. It's nothing magical about it at all. It's the sort of figure where there's expected Japanese potential action when it gets up to the sort of 45 area. Well, it's sitting there at the moment at 145. Does it make it a decent long? Well, it could push on and ride through here. It's just gone pretty choppy on the shorter time frames here. Even the with the 4 hourly, the hourlies not looking particularly strong. Higher lows through here, double tops. Yeah, it's there just sits risk into as much as I think with it. Well, everything we got to the upside here, there's the risk of it reacting at that 145 area. So probably not the best opportunity at the moment. Now the Aussie continues its rather fast fall. Last week, I mean, it's right down, back down to its lows, and it's the sort of bottom of the range, if that would be called the bottom of the previous range there, the previous lows. Looking soft. I mean, beautiful move off on Friday or Thursday into the weekly pivot there. Friday really just chopped for a long time and eventually rolled. Already down to its S2 here, so you can see how much it's moved. It could of course continue beyond that, as it has already moved so quickly. I just get a feeling it might just chop. Dollar yen, again the dollar's been pushing up against the yen here. All currencies are sort of giving way to the US dollar at the moment, and again we've got this point of looking at this 4-hourly chart consolidation on the intermediate time frames here, quite ugly on Friday's price action. Could still see further upside. There's nothing to stop this continuing at the moment. It has got resisted. There'll be a short-term double top obviously, but at the moment it just looks like it's got further upside there, although quite a lot of overlap on each of the bars for each of the days. New Zealand dollar really following the Australian dollar here, already down to its down to its monthly S2. It's right the way through here, looking soft, and it's done quite a lot of the movement, not down to the daily S2. Maybe if it rolls over, it will come down to its daily S2 as well, but really looking soft at this stage. Dollar Swissy, well, the dollar Swiss is. Dollar's not really gaining as much as I thought it might do by the Swissy. It's chopping around here. The Swissy becoming the sort of the safety currency, the secondary safety currency. And you see last week it really has just sat there, and it doesn't make it look too pretty. At some stage it could break out the highs there and get a bit of a wiggle on, but at one stage I was quite keen to be in, well, say one stage recently I was quite keen to be in this, but it's just not really setting up as much as I'd like. As opposed to the horizontal level here of a break, it might be safer waiting for the previous high here. Got some lows coming in which may provide some resistance. I think I'd wait for this now a bit longer before I looked for the upside again. Euro yen is right up there, but reacting here to the monthly R1 at this stage. It could always turn around. It's getting a nice little retrace, and I'm just looking at just pop that little old alert on there while I think of it, because there we go. A nice little retrace into that trend line, a weekly pivot. Might see a nice reaction. So looking at that for the dailies, well, of course it'll be down to its S2. Very pinched here. We'll see what comes off if it hits the daily pivot. If we catch a bounce off that, that'd be interesting. First one I've looked at, goodness, Euro pound, choppy as anything. We'll leave that. It's ugly, and I don't trade it very often at all. Euro Aussie. Still pushing up there. Euro CAD, it's just it's trying its best. They're not the cleanest of moves at this stage. Euro CAD here on the weeklies, it looking like it wants to come to the underside of the pivot. I'd look for a reaction off of that, and maybe a break of the 50 MA then or something. Just at the moment it's very flat, very flat around that 147.06 area. See, sort of like bar after bar, just literally on the point. Anyway, through the Asian session at least. Again, reaction back into its daily pivot, maybe just that beyond the weekly pivot, but I would watch this and see if we get any move to the downside. The pound Aussie's a mess. Pound CAD, it's not much different here. There's a little AB sort of C movement happening, but it's very bitty at this stage. you look at it from the 4-hourly picture or the daily pictures, it's pretty much sideways, and that's it. That's a bit of a story here. There's just not a lot going through at this stage. Pound yen, nothing really going on here either. Aussie CAD, this is breaking down a little bit on the dailies there, whether we can see a bit of a retrace before it sells off again. We'll see what happens with this. This has got some lower highs. It's such an ugly market on the bigger time frames. Aussie New Zealand chopping along. Sometimes we get into a nice move in this, but it's really quite iffy where it's sitting on the dailies here, on the hourlies there, and well, bigger time frame. It's a bit stuck where it is. Okay, not a lot to report on the currencies there. Let's just switch into the look at gold. So a bit of a delay on getting gold here. Don't know if it's my internet or there we go. Finally got there. Or what it was. Anyway, gold's still heading southbound. It still looks pretty low there. Big money's not particularly interested at this stage either. So, yeah, looking quite soft at this stage. Oil's been coming off. Said it's got into that territory where I just think, well, it might just have had enough for now, although I expect it to be a bit more rangy. It's really looking to see where that range would be. I'd almost rather it just roll down on its own, show us where the range is, and then trade it back up. It's one of those that quite a messy old day on Friday there. It pitched up. We'll see what happens today. We've got a rally back in, but as I said, I'd rather be on the long side than the short side on it still. But it has put some signs of weakness here with this lower high on the 4 hourlies kicking through there, 4 hourlies and daily hourlies, beg pardon. So it just that sign of weakness. We could. I'm looking at just sort of the horizontal side of things here, but we could get a bit of support off the trend line if it gets back down towards that now. So I'll watch that carefully. Okay, equity markets, CSI 300 struggling. Let's get back to the dailies here. Struggling again, gaps down, big gap down. Apparently, it's property is the big thing here at the moment, and the worrying factor. And it's don't need to go down any further from that market. But looking quite soft there. The Nikkei, as I said, it's not far away from those lows. I've been waiting for it to break down. It certainly looks like it's stuck for now. Nifty 50 also put a lower high, and that's confirmed now. Okay, it's finding a bit of support off the 50. A break of that 50 does make this market look softer, and it was just seeing it across the equities. Full stop at the moment. Just seeing a bit of a retracement. Australian 200, that's also coming off here on the dailies here, looking soft again. Break of the 50, could see it run down to the bottom of the range. US markets, probability of the US market being down on the year, on an election year, is pretty small. Just thought I read that the other day. But that doesn't mean to say it ain't going to trickle down at the moment. It's got a long way to be a negative year. It's got a lot of movement potential in there. So don't get too caught up in terms of the headlines sometimes. It could still end up on a positive year. Anyway, I say election year. Election year is actually next year, but it's the year before the election year. It's as all of basically how it builds up, and why it's such a good year is the money that runs into the economy generally is great, and it gives a bit of a boost to the economy and consequently the markets. Anyway, enough of that. This S&P 500 then, US 500 E-minis, again consolidated where it is at the moment. I was just looking, at the 4 hourly there. the frequency of these moves is greater, which, well, generally, if it's going in one direction, it could mean that eventually it does get the upper direction, but not looking particularly great at the moment. If anything, if it breaks the 50 MA, Friday's low there, we've lost quite a bit of support, because that's the pivot, the S1 pivot there as well on the monthly, and we could just see further downside. Okay, underside of the daily pivot at the moment, bit of a messy old thing. We'll see what happens. That could come off down towards the daily S1. Right, spent a lot of time on that. Do apologise. The Dow Jones just chopping along, not going anywhere particularly. The Nasdaq sliding off a little bit more, already below its 50. Maybe this should be the market if we're looking at something softer. I'm just looking at the weekly pivot here. Just quite like these moves. It just comes back to the other side. That weekly pivot could be of interest. Already done the daily. It might never get back to that level. Just looking at the previous levels of support, which become resistance. Well, we'll see. It might just crash over. Okay, it's the Nasdaq, the DAX. DAX just chopping along here, not really going too far at all. UK 100 again, a FTSE just chopping. Quite difficult markets at the moment. There you go. Quick look at what's happened to the crypto over the weekend. Then Bitcoin, way. Say way because if you look at this on the shorter time frame, there's the way. Had a bit of a pointy downside. It's picked up a bit today now, but still very consolidated there. Ethereum, no real difference, and with the occasional exception even, you've got to be looking around for some of these. They're very muddled, very prone to these little spikes either side of things. Just have a look at Ripple as well there. All the same-ish picture. All to me, a lot of them looking pretty bearish to me. Anyway, there you go. There we go. He says done. Right. Okay. On that note, I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you in the morning on the YouTube there. Bye for now. Right.